Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 30 of my investing journey, where I document my weekly contributions, purchases, distributions, portfolio performance, and the lessons I'm learning along the way. As always, this is not financial advice. I'm just simply sharing my journey, my real portfolio, and my personal investing experience with all of you. As you can see, by what's behind me right now. We haven't really breached the $5,000 mark. I was hoping that we would get there this week, but it was a very tough week. You may remember that I did mention on last week's episode that I had a feeling that August was going to be a red month, and I have to say, even though it didn't start in August, last week we had actually two pretty savage days that kind of like, erased a lot of capital from a lot of investors. And obviously I was not immune, even though I actually think my portfolio performed pretty well. But more of that as we go into the presentation. As always, I did my weekly contribution of $75. There's nothing unusual. It's the good old same $75 that I put every week. But it's just another week of consistently adding capital and building the portfolio over time. Okay. In terms of what did we buy and what did we sell? We didn't sell anything. We did buy two stocks. There are two of my new additions. So HHII and PayYi, one from Harvest and the other one from Bronton. So I bought 2 shares of each. Okay. HHII adds international equity exposure to my portfolio, as well as obviously a monthly income, while PayYi gives me exposure to utilities and infrastructure companies, plus bi-weekly payments, right? Both positions support the broader goal of increasing diversification while continuing to grow the portfolio cash flow. In terms of my portfolio performance, so I was down 1.64 basis points. So last week we were at 8.75 year to date. This week we are up to 7.11 year to date. So as I mentioned before, that represents a decline of 1.64 percentage points, which is, it's not bad. It is disappointing to give back some gains. I'm not really bothered because, as you all know, this is not a growth portfolio. This is an income portfolio, and income keeps going up. I look at the list of assets that I hold for different ETF providers, and they're all actually, of all my holdings, a lot of them had their contributions increase for the payments coming out next month, around the week of the 10th. Although I think I have a payment that comes the week before that on the 6th. Most of the payments next month coming around the week of the 10th of August. Okay. The portfolio is still comfortably in positive territory for the year. We are already in August. We've got really basically 5 months left. If you count August for year end. So it's actually not bad at all. In terms of my weekly performance, well, obviously it was a mixed bag overall, right? My technology heavy and commodity link holdings, they both came under pressure during the week, while my US large cap exposure, helped recover some of the ground later on the week. I think it was on Thursday we had a very good day. AMD was clearly going crazy. I think one day went down 17%, then the next day up went up 19%, and then it went back down again on the Friday. My top performance holdings for this week was obviously PayG, USCL, no surprise there, HPYE, QDay, and QQCL. Right, PayG was the top performer, gaining 1.97%, which is actually not bad at all. USCL also held up pretty well and benefit from the late week recovery for the US large cap stocks. QDay and QQCL remain positive despite the volatility affecting the technology sector, which was very nice to see. This was this was not huge gains per se, but they help offset some of the much larger declines elsewhere in the portfolio. In terms of the weekly performance of the top and the laggards, as I mentioned, PayG, USCL, HPYE, QD, and QQCL, right, help prop up the portfolio. While unfortunately, AMDY 13.26. We're still 80 or 90% year to date on AMDY, right? So, but it's like, wow, bloody hell. But this is exactly what is supposed to happen, okay? So obviously uranium, CCHI also suffer, PayE and CMCL, right? So, yeah. I have to say, AMDY was easily the biggest drag this week. Falling 13.26%. I think it's the first time that one of my portfolio actually drops that much. Because AMDY it's a concentrated single stall ETF position with an enhanced structure, right? 25% leverage. It can move dramatically, and this really shows how it dramatically can move. But you should have been there the day before when it went up like 19%, okay? So yeah, no surprise there. CCHI also struggled, right? Lost 4.5 percentage points. As Cameco, which is the underlying company, and uranium-related exposure weakened during the week, basically together with the commodity sell-off, right? So yeah, this is obviously not the start that I would have preferred for PayE. It had a very difficult first week in the portfolio, declining almost 4.12%. But again, 1 week does not determine whether the long-term investment thesis is actually successful, right? So nothing to worry about there. CMCL, what can I tell you, right? Commodities were down, so yeah, it was going to suffer. Not much we can say about that. The most important takeaway for me this week, it's the difference between my core holdings and my satellite positions, okay? And this is exactly what we're going to talk about right now. So if you take a look, like the diversified core ETFs and income ETF, most of them held their ground. And by holding the ground, I mean their losses were minimal. They still dragged the portfolio down, don't get me wrong, but they didn't drag it to the extent that would actually, make a huge difference, right? Meanwhile, obviously, the concentrated satellite holdings such as AMDY, CCHI experience much larger moves. Okay, but this is essentially how I expect the portfolio structure to behave. The core of the portfolio is designed to provide diversification, income, lower overall volatility, and greater stability, while the satellite positions are designed to provide concentrated exposure, higher growth potential, greater upside, but also significantly more volatility. Okay? This week, as you saw, the satellites moved dramatically, while the core helped prevent the portfolio from falling even further. Okay? This does not mean that the core cannot decline or that the satellites will always recover. It simply demonstrates why position sizing and diversification actually matters, right? So if I had to summarize this week, I contributed another $75. I made no sales. I purchased 2 shares of HHII and 2 shares of PAYI. Portfolio decline from 8.75 to 7.11. PayE led the portfolio with a gain of 1.97%. AMDY was the biggest drag, falling 13.26%. And the main lesson was clear, right? The core provided stability while the satellites absorbed most of the volatility. I'm still positive for the year. I'm still collecting income. I'm still building one contribution at a time. And then, it's been an extremely interesting week. This is it for episode 30. Thanks for following along. And hopefully I will see you all in the next update, which will be next week for episode 31. If you like what you see, please do give us a like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 100 subscribers before the end of the year. I believe we've reached 78 subscribers this week. So thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye. Bye-bye now.